I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what a libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Yes, it is 3 p.m. Eastern, and you got to look at my mug yet again, and we are drinking coffee. The brand is strong. Absolutely. Every single day, keeping ourselves up and running. And if you care about this, then do me a favor. Do us all a favor. Like, comment, share. I bug you every time. I'm going to keep bugging you. Click that like button or that love button or wherever it is. Make sure you're commenting. Even if you're just going to say hi to us, it matters. The algorithms pay attention to this kind of thing. And share it too, right? If the only way we're going to get around the media blackout that we get, the media, blockade that we get is by creating our own media. This is part of it. So do your part, like, comment, and share. It does matter. I am very lucky today. I have with me a gentleman from Pennsylvania who is trying to get into the State House for some crazy reason. The man himself, Noyes Lawton. How are you, sir?
Hello, Mr. Sharpe. How are you doing? Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Absolutely. You are the crazy man trying to get into the Pennsylvania State House. I got to ask you, why'd you decide State House and why now?
So here's why. The State House in our area, our district, has been held with a stronghold, like controlled by the Republican Party for as long as I can remember. I grew up in this district. The only time I've been away from this district is my time in the Marine Corps. It's always been Republicans. It normally is only a Republican on the ticket. So I want to give an option. And it is the interesting thing about this race and having me on the ballot is it is a Libertarian Republican on the ballot. There is no Democrat.
I like that. So it's a two-person race only?
It's a two-person race. Yes, sir.
Oh, you don't know how much I love that. Oh, hey, I love that.
Larry, you're wasting your vote if you write in a Democrat, right?
See that? You're wasting your vote on Democrats. What are you doing here? Don't do that. Of course, I love it.
Yeah.
Guys, look, this is what I love, right? Right now, we've got Noyes here. He's trying. If you want to find out what he's doing, head over to his Facebook page. He's going across the bottom right now. It's Lawton for Liberty on Facebook. Check it out. See what he's got going on, right? If this is something that you can support, get behind him. Help him out. Be his Facebook warrior, right? Help him build out content. Donate. Give him some cash. Show up. Do some sign waving for him. Do some hang some door knockers on doors. Whatever's appropriate in his world. I'm happy to hear that. So let me ask now. It's two-person race.
Yes, sir.
What are the issues that you think are like? I'm sure you have 1,000.
Oh,
but
1 million. Yeah.
Absolutely. So just give me like the top 1, 2, or 3 you think are going to land well in your district.
Well, here's one that's been a struggle in our state for the past 40 years, and we're going back. 1933 was when it started. Is the state-controlled liquor stores, and we've seen them give up the beer and wine that's now privatized, but the liquor is still controlled by the state.
Got it.
You go back to 1933, Gifford Pinchot, when he signed the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board into law. It was designed to make alcohol as hard and as expensive to get. So, as libertarians, we talk about government controlling morality, and that's where we started. And so now, the economy where it's at, the state has no business in the liquor sales.
Yeah, absolutely.
For our district,
but let me go down that road for a second.
Yes, sir.
The people in your district who are concerned about that, who are saying, why is this happening? Is it hurting entrepreneurship? Is it creating a situation where people are getting arrested? What's the thing that's happening that's making people unhappy? I know it's wrong. I'm asking what's the impact in your community that's going, whoa, what's going on here?
Well, and here's the economic impact. So when you look at 5 state stores in our district, they bring in close to 5 million gross, close to.
Wow.
Okay, that money all leaves our district. It all goes back to Harrisburg into the general fund. So here's my point, and the point I make to people as I go around the district is, hey, wouldn't it be great if that money stayed in our district?
Brilliant.
And we might see that back, right, in programs, social programs, drug and alcohol education, maybe, or maybe it goes somewhere else. We don't know. But we do know if there's cash in the district that is being spent in the district, that our economy improves because the money stays here and it doesn't leave and go back to Harrisburg.
Which means we have more jobs locally, which means less chance of people being depressed and feeling bad, which means we have more money to give the charity to help people who are depressed and feeling bad. So it helps everybody locally. I love that idea. I love that tremendously. Very good.
Yeah. And like I said, I think they just presented the bill in House. We're at the end of the term. It's not, I really doubt we're going to see it go through. They've been working on it for 30 years and we haven't got there. I think it's time we push that through.
What a great specific idea with good benefit at the end, localization. I love that. And you can measure a win. I love that. Great. Give me another one. This is good.
So here's another one. Pennsylvania incarcerates our incarceration rate is one of the highest in the country. We are 765 per 100,000 people.
Wow.
So, and we always talk about victimless crimes, right? That's what libertarians about. Victimless crimes. Why are we putting victimless crimes in jail? Why are they in prison? And it's kind of twofold. And, because then we get into addiction, we get into the mental health aspect. So are we putting people in jail that have a serious mental health problem and we're lacking mental health? And we are, our community is lacking a mental health. We do have mental health in our district, but it's not there to cover all the needs.
No, I get it. Here in New York City, actually, our jail, the most popular jail we know, the most violent in the country, which is Rikers Island, that's our biggest, basically, mental hospital. Because of that, our jail has become our largest mental hospital. Yeah.
And then, it's really easy to tie that mental health stuff into addiction, because if you have an addiction, you're addicted to drugs,
right?
You have a mental health issue. If you don't have one when you start using drugs, you eventually will. And so it's really easy to tie this rehab in my mind. And, of course, we get into like privatization. We privatize mental health, rehabilitation, and people have a choice of where they're going to go. It's not state mandated that you have to go here for 30 days.
But is it privatized or is it nonprofit? Is it a joint? Right? How do you when the second I hear privatize, the first thing I think of, private prisons. They're going to be making money off people's misery. Look at you, evil libertarians trying to make money off of people's misery. Right? But I'm serious.
No, you're absolutely right. That's
the imagery that comes. So how do we make that feel the right way that I know you want it to feel?
Right. And so here's the big thing, right? Like prisons versus rehab, mental health. There's a difference, right? When we talk about forcing somebody into prison, and definitely I'm against the privatization of prison. Privatizing, so I'll compare it to our elderly homes.
Sure.
We have a choice, right? Like whether we're going to send our parent, grandparent, whatever the case may be, where are we going to choose a good one? We're going to,
sure.
It gives us options. And I get what you're saying about it being
could we
living off somebody's misery, but
could we instead, and I'm just spitballing here, right?
Yeah.
Could we instead say something like, look, why don't we take the idea of addiction and mental health, Why are we putting it to this? Why are we putting it to the state, which just puts us in jail?
Yeah.
Why aren't we giving it back to the community?
Yeah. Yeah.
And allowing the community to deal with that. And the community becomes a generic word for both profit and nonprofit, whichever does a better job, right?
Right. And that's what we want, right? Whoever does the best job. Well, and I think when we look at any of these programs, it's always, in my opinion, it's better if we're going to have government involved. It's better that we have local government involved rather than we have state government mandating to a local county how they're going to do it when they don't necessarily know what the resources are in that county.
Absolutely. Yes, I completely agree. And what I find is when you start doing that, then everyone in that room just starts checking a box. They actually stop caring about the loved one and they just start checking the boxes the government forces them to check.
Right.
And the caring aspect goes out the window and the box checking goes crazy. And every time something goes wrong, they don't actually try to fix it or make things better. What they do is create more boxes to check.
Right.
They protect themselves by checking boxes. That's the piece that drives me crazy. I agree with you completely. I love the idea. We're removing government, adding that community, whether that's nonprofit or profit, whatever does the best job of helping the people locally. I love that idea.
Well, and Larry, I followed what you did in New York when you ran for governor very closely. I mean, I'm in northern PA. We're right on the New York border.
On the border. We're brothers.
Yeah, we're brothers, right. And so I love some of the stuff you said. And one of the things that has rung true to me, and you, I think the question was posed to you, don't libertarians just want to tear everything down? Get rid of everything, right? And I believe your answer was along the lines of, I don't want to tear everything down, but we need to stop at some point. Right.
Yep.
We need to put a halt to all the social programs, the spending. Like, I'm not going to take away what's here already, but let's stop and look at what we have.
Yep.
Let's get rid of what's not working. Let's keep what's working. Right. And that's one reason when we look at the state part, when you asked the original question, like, okay, that's where we're going to have influence, right? Yep. Like at the state level, to stop just.
We're going to have impact there. I'm with you. Yes, people are going to feel it. Well, what I often say is I'm not about tearing down the state. That's not my initial goal. In the long run, that would be amazing. But my initial goal is very simple. I understand that government by default is always two things no matter what. Number one, it's a monopoly. Number two, it's a massive jobs program, right? Those are the two things that government is always. Whatever else it may be doing, it's always a monopoly and a massive jobs program. So if you remove it, what happens? It's a monopoly. You remove it, what's left? Nothing. You left, and people get scared. Nothing's there, right? Because it's a monopoly. Right. Not just that, jobs go flying away. People get scared, and people who are afraid make bad decisions. That's a fact of life that we see. But if we accept that government's a monopoly, and instead my goal has always been to add other options to that, to break the monopoly, so that people begin to choose the other options, and then government can go away because we replaced government with either community and or commerce.
And here's what I say. I said it today. We are addicted to government. We're addicted. Yes. So you can compare it to an addiction. You don't rip it away. You don't go cold turkey, right? But we stop. We recognize that there's a problem, right?
Yes.
And so and listen, I am upfront. I had an article in the paper that was done on me. I'm very upfront about my addiction issues and my incarceration issues. Listen, I understand it. Like, we're addicted to the government. Hey, who better to get us off of it than an alcoholic who's sober now, right? Like, I know, like, the first part, hey, we got to recognize we have a problem. We're addicted to government, and we need to do something.
I say this all the time, right? When you look for people who want to help you with a problem, right? If you have any problem, government problem, a financial problem, medical problem, mental problem, any problem, social problem, the first thing everyone needs is not a program, but someone who cares. That's the first step. Then you find the right things you need, someone who cares. Now, here's the best part. The best person who cares, if possible, is exactly to your point, Noyes, is someone who's been there. That's the best. If you've got an alcohol problem, find someone who cares, who's had an alcohol problem. That's your best chance for success.
Right.
Whatever problem, financial problem, find someone who cares, who's had the financial problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the thing. I want to point out, like, and you mentioned at the beginning talking about my page and donations. I don't want any donations. Don't
say that. Yes, you do. Don't listen to them.
No, listen,
we want donations.
Listen to me, Larry. Listen. Here's the thing that bothers me. My opponent is funded by the Republican National Party.
Sure.
He does not represent even the Republicans in our area. He represents Harrisburg GOP. And yeah, I do need help. I mean,
thank you.
I say that. You're welcome, Larry. I say that in jest, though. I think the big thing is the corporate money. I mean, so my opponent's backed by corporations. My opponent's backed by the upper crust of our district. And so when I say that because I want the people here to know, like I represent them. I want them to know that
but I want you to say, I don't want corporate money if that's how you feel.
Absolutely.
I'm totally okay with that. But you do want people to give you money. You want them to be vested. You want people to care about what you're doing. And not everybody can get out there and wave those signs, right? If I've got more time than money, then I probably should be sign waving or doing something like that, right? But maybe I'm a person who has more money than time. In which case, write a check, right? I mean, it depends upon where you are in your life right now and how you can support the cause. Some people have more time than money. Some have more money than time.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And I have framed it up that way. Like the corporate stuff I don't want. And our party, that's where our party's at. We don't want corporate funding. We want the people to back us and that's where we're at, So you have an actual question. Robbie comes out and wants to know, what do you think about decriminalization of drugs in Portugal? It concludes that contrary to predictions, the Portuguese decriminalization did not lead to major increase in drug use. The evidence indicates reduction in problematic use, drug-related harms, and criminal justice overcrowding. Do you have an opinion on that? So the decriminalization part, Larry, So there are two different things. We discussed this at one of our committee meetings. There's two different things: decriminalization versus legalization.
Right. Yep.
Those are two different things, and I think people get confused when
most don't know the difference. Right. Most don't know.
And there's a huge difference. Number one, we're not saying we decriminalize it. We're not saying that it's okay, right? So, but we're not putting people in jail. So, and I guess I didn't help me frame up the question, Larry, because I guess I didn't understand where he was going.
I think what he's saying is, what do we think about how Portugal did it, right? Portugal just decriminalized it all and just said go, right? And I think where he's going is, where do you stand? And what I'll bring up to clarify what I think, so you're clear on where my head is going, is most Americans don't know the difference. Many libertarians do, because we live in that world, right? We know the difference between decrim and making it legal. Yeah. Most Americans can't tell the difference. Right. And most Americans have to link it to something, which is why in my campaign, I talked about, regulate it like onions, right? Making marijuana, making cannabis a plant. And I only talked about cannabis because I thought in my state, New York, that there's no way we would decriminalize all drugs, that it was a bridge too far. And I would rather take cannabis than take all the rest, start now and then move from there. That's not true for every state. Some states, you could probably decrim everything. I didn't think New York still doesn't have legalized cannabis now. So that's why I went that level. But I think the other thing is, I use the phrase regulate like onions, so the average person would think, oh, there's some regulation to it. Yeah. And I thought New York would accept that. California did regulate like wine. So I guess he's asking, where are you there?
Yeah. And so as I go around our district, I really, we're the same stuff that you're talking about. When people talk about decriminalization or even legalization, marijuana is okay, but I think we're really scared to do anything past that because they see the constant. I mean, we have an opioid crisis in our community and across the country, and it scares them to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to make this okay." So, hey, if we can start with marijuana, we can decriminalize that. And move forward, and we see that works, then we can keep moving forward. But we have to move forward. We're not moving forward right now. So I'll bring this up because this leads into. So we had a Democratic senator propose, and there's no bill that's been written, but he's proposed to the House that we legalize adult use cannabis in Pennsylvania. So, that's great. That's super. Here's my problem with it, though. In the same memo, right, he's saying we'll bring in tax dollars. Of course, that's always the big thing. You're right. And that way we can keep all the social programs we have, and we don't have to raise taxes.
Yes.
So my problem is, if we're bringing extra money in, we should be lowering taxes, not just keeping the status quo.
My worry is we bring tax in and we spend more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Hey, listen, we're human beings. Our politicians are human beings. We're all human beings. You give us money, we are going to spend it. I mean,
yes.
So we need.
So you speak a lot about the kind of mental health issues, addiction issues. That's a big part. A lot of what you talked about was literally, your big issues were criminal justice and cannabis and alcohol stores. That's obviously an issue for you. So I got to ask, when it comes to the COVID crisis and the government response to the COVID crisis, this has got to be driving you crazy when you're looking 3, 6, 9 months down the road at the mental, crisis that's going to come if it hasn't already started, right, from this.
Well, it's already started. And actually, so there was a article I read, and it's from New York City. I believe it was Queens. And I can't remember exactly, but the suicide rate from the year prior to this year when we were quarantined, I think it doubled. Don't quote me on this, but it definitely increased. Okay.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think the problem is when we have government and mandate anything, pass anything, legislate anything, we have unintended consequences.
Yes.
They have not looked at that. And they passed the quarantine with the best of intent, right? Or, Pennsylvania is under the strictest model as far as I understand. It's all done with the best intent to help save lives, to keep people just healthy, right?
Yep.
The problem is we didn't look at what happens to our mental health and our addicts when we force them to isolate and lock up in their homes, right? And I know in our area there were Zoom meetings and whatever, but for mental health addicts, like, they need that social aspect. As humans, we need that social aspect. And when we forgot about that, we had addicts and mental health people left behind.
Yes.
And I mean, it's a shame. I don't want to minimize why we did it.
No, I get you. COVID is real.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we need to put some complete thought into this process. Hey, what are we going to do for these people? So and I know, like, if we pass something, if we mandate something, it needs to be good for everyone, not just a select group of people. And my feeling was, and I get a little fired up about this. My feeling was we left addicts and mental health people behind. Fend for yourself and, like, good luck. Yep. So to me, it was uncaring. Like, we didn't put any thought into this.
But if you heard me, I complained about this a lot early on. And my piece was, the second that you mandate it, you have rebellion. The second that you mandate it, you have people now politicizing it. Oh, it's because Democrats want it or Republicans want it. And now you get a left-right divide, right? If we would have simply followed the idea that here are the actual guidelines, here's the information we know, and not only say here's government information, but here's others too. Look at it all and decide what works for your community, because your rural community is going to be different than my city community or this guy's city community or this guy's rural community. It's different.
Absolutely.
And what would have happened is people who cared would have tried to find an answer for the loved ones in their lives who are dealing with mental issues.
Well, and it goes back to what we talked about earlier, Larry. If we let the local communities decide what was best for their areas with guidance from the state.
Yep.
And I mean, I know we're a rural community. There's a lot of intelligent people in this area that could have handled this. So we should have let them handle it, because not only are they intelligent and educated and know what they need to know, but they're in touch with the people locally and understand the needs of the local community.
Do you have a lot of farmers in your area?
We used to.
Not that much anymore?
Well, I think it's like, I think New York's faced the same crisis. I mean, small farms are under attack. I mean,
absolutely, yes. What I'm saying with farmers is farmers are notoriously, have an ingenuity that is just insane. They like figure stuff out because they kind of have to. So
adapt and overcome, Larry.
They do, 100%, brother. Semper Fi, you know it. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
They farmers have a way of getting around stuff. So if you give them and say, here it is, farmer, here's what you got to do, the odds are there's going to be a farmer who figures this out and goes, you know what? This is how we do it. Some are going to fail, but some are going to figure it out, and then we all copy.
Hey, listen, I grew up on a farm. My dad was a farmer, and I respect him. He ended up on the school board in our local area. Smart guy. He knew how to do everything, and he said, if I'm going to be successful as a farmer, I need to know how to weld. I need to know how I need to know how to, because I can't afford to go do it all, right? So you're absolutely right. And when we talk about farms, so now we get into, and I've talked to people about this locally. So what do we do to help small farms? Well, the agritourism stuff is it's a huge thing right now. People want to come to the rural areas.
Oh, yes.
They want to see the beautiful sites that we have. They want to ride on hay wagons. So, but they
want to pet a goat.
They want to pet a goat, right?
Yes.
But who's interfering? I mean, the state makes it that they can't. They're mandated. They're required to have a certain amount of insurance that they can't afford.
Yes,
and it doesn't make it feasibly possible. So,
did you call it agritourism?
Agritourism, yes, sir.
I'm so stealing that. Agritourism. I love that. But this goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is the idea of the farmer figuring things out, right? Yeah, I want to treat farmers like entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and they are. I mean,
yes.
And we're going to open up a whole bag of but when government steps in again, and this is more at the federal, we're getting away from state, but when the federal government subsidizes farmers, it hurts us in the long run. Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing, like you, and I agree with you 100%. Farmers are ingenious. They figure out how to make things work.
Yep.
If something's not working, they will sell something else. They will grow something else and make their operations. What we do by subsidizing that is we keep businesses that aren't successful still in business.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, look, I want to stay down the same road though, right?
Yeah.
I think that one of the reasons why we have so many people protesting, not that George Floyd's murder wasn't horrible, it was absolutely horrible. Get that. What I'm saying is, I think one of the reasons why we have so much is because this was, we were all sitting at home. We were sitting at home for 3-4 months. This was and I keep using Tim O'Connor's thing, this was the kindling that was right there. And George Floyd was the spark that just, boom, exploded, right? And now you got people who've been sitting at home with nothing to do except watch Netflix all day. Yeah. And now all of a sudden they've got a mission. And so we jump out, we got a mission, and we get out there, and we don't have to be at work tomorrow morning because there's no jobs. Yeah. So it's easy to protest for 6 weeks in a row when your boss isn't telling you to be to work at 9 o'clock in the morning. So all this happens. I mean, I feel like the protests were also created because of government response to COVID and the anger that people are feeling. I think a lot of that's also frustration and part of your issue that you're talking about, which is mental health too. Am I wrong here? What's your view on protests?
Oh, protests? We're protected,
I gave you a lot, but go ahead.
No. We're protected. We have the right to protest, to peaceably protest. That's part of our First Amendment rights. So I'll give an example here in our local area, right? We had a Black Lives Matter protest. We had people, Blue Lives Matter on the sidewalk, all peaceably protesting, right? No problems. We had local police there. We had one gentleman that did not listen to the police, ended up, yelling, moving, not following police orders. He was arrested. So there's the point, right? As soon as we cross that line and we're not peaceably protesting, then there's an issue. But we're protected. We have the right to protest. That's why we live. That's why we live in America. We're great. We live in a great country. Like, our district is great. These things that we're talking about, these are things that you and I are trying to protect. Libertarians are trying to protect the the right to protest, the right to free speech, the right to the freedom of all this stuff. And the more government is involved, the more it chips away at those liberties. And you said something else, Larry, and I want to say this. I think the other thing that happens with a two-party system, we end up with those two parties being controlled by the extremes. And I think we're seeing that right now.
Yep.
And what I wish people would understand is that you're not wasting your vote on any third party, but definitely not on libertarians. We have the ability to bring people together.
Yep.
And that's my opinion. When we enter the arena and we are a strong force, we bring people together. And that's, as I went around, I've been all over the district petitioning. I have not gotten one argument, and I've talked a lot of politics with anybody, right?
Nice.
And I feel like, me personally, one of my personal strengths is I have the ability to bring people to the table. I have the ability to bring people to the table and talk and not want to strangle each other by the end of the conversation, right? And that's what we need right now. Everybody's 100%. Mad. Everybody's mad and wants to, go after everyone.
And every time something happens, we throw it always into a left-right paradigm.
Exactly.
And to your point, an extreme, right? So anything that happened is either it's Trump trying to kill us or Biden trying to kill us. And everyone is one of those two, no matter what. It's everyone trying to kill us, and it's left or right. And it's never just, maybe it's something in the middle. Maybe it's different. Maybe there's a nuance. I think you're totally right. Absolutely. So let me ask the harder question. Do you have a cool slogan?
Oh, whoo, that's easy. Lawton for liberty. Lawton for liberty.
There we go. Hashtag Lawton for liberty. I love it.
Hey, this is what I struggle with when I talk to people and they like, how can you not get behind what the libertarians stand for? Because we stand for everybody's liberties. Everyone in this district, I don't care what your beliefs are. I believe as long as you're not hurting anybody else, you have the right to do it, and government shouldn't be telling you how to do it. Right? Lawton for liberty.
I love it. Well, we have another question from Dylan. Dylan says, thinking about COVID, can you trust the community to handle how is best for them? What about outsiders coming into your community? What is your thought about travel bans, right? So he says he's from New Jersey, he's kind of strict. So even though you might trust your community, what about other people coming in, right? So us crazy New Yorkers, we rush over the border and head to Pennsylvania, right? We run from Binghamton and we run over the border, and now we're in Pennsylvania.
Well,
how do you handle that?
Well, I don't know if I have an answer for that. We see it here in our community. We're a rural community. My fiance and I went downtown the other day. We're sitting on the park bench, and there isn't a single license. There's not a single Pennsylvania license plate here, right? Mm-hmm. So I know our state organization, the LPPA, early on released a statement. It was about masks because everybody was fired up about masks, right? Sure. But it talked about respecting other people. Mm-hmm. And so respecting other people is not something we can govern, and we can't enter a police state where we're not allowing anybody to move.
We shouldn't.
We shouldn't.
But we sure can.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Larry.
We sure can.
And thank you for clearing. Because we're. Yes. I mean, hey, listen, that's why I'm here. I'm scared, right? Like, we are having our liberties infringed upon. Yep. And we are willfully allowing it to happen.
Yes, we're voting for it. We're begging for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why. Listen, if we get our voice out there, and even if we don't win, if we bring liberty to the table and it's discussed, then we've succeeded, right?
So let me go to that point then. How do we make impact, man? I mean, this is tough. COVID has made stuff tougher. Fear has made stuff tougher. The left-right paradigm is pulling us apart. That's made it harder. There's fear. What are we going to do to make impact?
That's a great question. So listen, one thing, and this isn't talked about a lot. I'm sure you're probably, so Duverger's law, the political scientist, French political scientist, and he talks about the two-party system. So part of the problem is the way we vote.
Yes.
So, we vote, it's winner take all. So when it's a winner take all type of situation, we create a two-party system. And so we have done this So, I mean, do we need to look at like changing how we vote, changing the election process to more of a committee? I don't know if that's the answer or not, but the problem is right now, how we're set up, two-party system is going to happen.
Yep.
So doing stuff like this, talking to people, that's what happens. But I do feel like as I go around and talk to people, Republican, Democrat, they're fed up. They're tired. I'll bring this point, Larry. So you talked about slogans. I'm sick of the change slogans. And when I heard slogans, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of change. Like, America's a great country. We live in a great district. I'm tired of change. Like, we live in a great country. There's no need to change anything. So out of curiosity, I researched. I'm like, when did this start? You want to know how it started? It started when government started sticking their nose. It started with a New Deal.
Yep.
We had, government creating jobs, government doing for us instead of us doing for us. And there we go. Ranked choice voting.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
And the great thing about that ranked choice voting is now you can throw your vote towards a libertarian and not feel like you're going to lose, right?
Yep.
And we are competitive. We want to win, and that's the problem. This winner take all. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place.
No, I got you. There's another question Robbie brings up.
Okay.
To make impact, should we hold a convention of states? A lot of people who are for the convention of states. Now, you would have to vote on that if you were in the state house, right? You'd actually have a vote on this, right? If you're in the state house, Pennsylvania, you have to vote to decide if they're going to join the convention of states and such. You'd actually have a vote here. Where do you stand on this?
So it's along the same lines of the rural areas wanting to create a new state because they feel their voice isn't heard because of the urban areas. We want to split up New York. Yeah, we do. We want to split up New York, right? And I don't think it's the opposite. We have a good system.
Okay.
It needs to be tweaked. I don't think we need radical changes. I think the problem right now is we that's what we keep speaking of. Our country has worked, the Constitution has worked, but we are straying away from the Constitution. We are straying away from liberty.
Would you identify as a constitutionalist?
No. I don't. No,
that's why some people do. That's why I don't either. To tell you the truth, I don't either. But some people do.
So, Larry, I've been a Democrat, Republican, and then I found the Libertarian Party like 5 years ago, and this is where I belong. There's ideals from both sides that are American, that like stand for what we all stand for. The problem is there's parts that don't, and that's the government overreach, the overtaxation, and that's
so. Let me grab one more question. This is Aaron. She says, "How would you help support rehabilitation instead of jail in your community? What kind of programs, if any, would you put in place?"
So I've been talking about this a lot. One question I had was, and we talked about it earlier. So you have addiction, which ends up into a mental health issue. Right. So why aren't we combining these two entities, mental health, rehabilitation?
Okay.
And so by combining them, that like we're using our resources that we have more wisely. I don't know what the answer is. I know that prison's not working. Right.
Okay.
I know. So one thought process on the rehabilitation process is 30 days isn't long enough, but that's what insurance covers. So we go to rehab for 30 days and we're tossed back out in the street. Good luck. Hopefully you make it.
Well, I have someone who's asking to help you. Erin says she's got a lot of great ideas. If I were you, I'd reach out there and have a conversation.
I definitely will.
Because now you have a mental health policy chief. That was easy.
Right, there we go.
I literally just recruited you.
I'll be in touch.
Absolutely. I just recruited you.
Yep.
Absolutely. So let me go to the next step then. If I hope you win, I think you're the right guy for the job. But if you don't actually win, have you decided what is a secondary win for you? Like, how do you decide you've still won even though you didn't get the seat?
I've already won. And I'll tell you why. So I started my Lawton for Liberty channel, the state rep page. I've done, I don't know how many videos. I've done several videos. And I received a comment from somebody that said, hey, thanks for the videos. I've looked at other libertarian stuff, and I really question the Republican-Democrat model, right? That's a win. That's a
yes.
win. I've got out and talked to people. We've already won, right? But the big win would be to actually win this thing.
Sure, absolutely.
There's days that I feel like I can. There's days that I feel like there's no way that you can beat the established Republican base.
Can I give you my opinion here?
Yes, sir.
You're in a two-way race.
Yes, sir.
Which means you get the I hate the guy now vote no matter what, right? That's a huge advantage.
Yep.
My opinion is build your team right now. Grab people like Erin. Erin's serious. She will help you out. You'll give her a call. She'll give you her opinion. You can build out policy. You can deepen your page. You can grow bigger and better and stronger. And the people who are going to look at you just because they don't like the other guy are going to hear you when they wouldn't have heard you any other time.
Right.
Recruit them too. And if you lose this time, run again in 2 years. Every 2 years is your
2 years. And here's the thing.
Run again in 2 years, and you will see that if you don't win this time, and you might win this time because people are unhappy.
Right.
But if you don't, take that, grow that, and do even more. I wouldn't stop if I were you. No. My view is being in a two-person race, you have a massive advantage over lots of others. Oh, yeah. People are going to hear you.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. As I've gone around the district, the big question I have from everyone is, are you guys going to put up a county commissioner? So, there's people in our community are asking for something different. So, I mean, that's an option. I've talked to our committee here locally.
But here's what I don't want you to do. It's a mistake that libertarians make all the time. They just run for something because they want to win. No. My friend, let me give you my opinion. People disagree with me all the time. I don't run for everything. Yeah. I don't run for anything. I've run for governor. I might run for governor again. Yeah. Because that's what I am. I'm an executive. That's what I am. I'm an executive. I'm not going to run for Congress or the Senate. That's not who I am. Right. I'm not a legislator. I'm an executive. And people now see me as that. So I can only run for an executive type position that people will see me as trying to make impact. My opinion, I would find the right place for you and I would keep running for that thing because then people know that's what you do. You don't want to become an activist who runs for office. No, I want to be a guy who runs for office.
I agree with you, Larry. And the thing that so I'm also involved. I mean, we're small. I'm also involved in our county committee. And the thing that we're talking about, I mean, we struggle with viable candidates too. I mean, so I've already talked to our committee.
Better to have less good candidates than more bad ones.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
We're Marines. Better to have a smaller force that's effective than a massive force that's not.
Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely. By the way, Robbie also is asking to be recruited.
Oh,
so now you've got two.
Hey, I'm going to write this down.
There we go. You've got two people who want to be recruited. So life is good for you. You're already building your team. You're already building your team.
Well, and I had, I have a cousin who's a local, has a local farm. He's done a lot of great things like outside, just like we talked about.
Yes.
I talked to him about, agriculture policy. So I have some people established and I'm
talking. So now even bigger.
And even bigger and even better. Right.
Absolutely. All right. So Noyes, there's something you want to bring up before we wrap this up?
No, Larry, thanks for having me on. It has been a pleasure. I do want to tell you, I really admired the things that you said for New York State. And a lot of great ideas. And one that I love is the selling the naming rights.
Yes.
I loved it. I love it. But here's the thing. When I talk to okay, so if you're going to cut taxes, what are you going to do? Well, we have to think outside the box.
Yes.
Right? We still need money coming in. We still need to keep things moving forward and progress and all that stuff needs to happen. But we can think outside of the box and stop overtaxing people. And I'll leave it with this. This is the thing, Larry. It's really simple. Economics is simple. You leave money. We already talked about it. You leave money with the people, they will spend it. And
yes, they will.
Grow.
Yes,
simple.
It is that simple. All right, my friend. I want to say thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Everybody else, thank you for watching. Go support this man, right? Noyes Lawton, go support him. Lawton for Liberty on Facebook. He needs help. We all need help. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry.